Welcome to a very special episode of the Nitpicking Nerds. Today, we're looking at the best card for Commander from each set.
We're scouring over 120 expansions, over 20,000 cards throughout 27 plus years of Magic.
Yes, we're looking at only original printings.
We're not talking about cards banned in Commander.
Yep, and no reprint sets. So that means something like, example, any of the 6th, 7th editions, they don't have any original printings and therefore will not be gone over in this video.
Yeah, we don't want to repeat cards. So for this one, I'm going to be doing all the voiceover. What are you doing?
I did all the editing. It was well over 100 hours of editing, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it.
Our journey begins with Magic's oldest and arguably most powerful set, Alpha, released in 1993. Alpha has no shortage of Commander staples and powerhouses. A solid chunk of Alpha isn't even legal in EDH due to card design flaws, accessibility, or sheer power level. Counterspell, Wrath of God, Basalt Monolith, Birds of Paradise, Wheel of Fortune, Swords to Plowshares, and Mana Vault are all in contention for the best card in the set, but they all fall a bit short. Even the only Commander Legal Power 9 card, Time Twister, did not win. Demonic Tutor and Dual Lands are also cards to consider, but none of them can match the unparalleled power of the ultimate Commander staple, Sol Ring. Sol Ring is the go-to auto-include that every single deck looks to play. It powers out ridiculous starts, nets you mana the turn you play it, and is all around just a broken Magic card that has contributed highly to countless victories over the history of Commander and Magic in general. Beta is the second print run of Alpha, designed to meet the insanely high demand created by Richard Garfield's flagship core set. Since this video only covers original printings, we only have to look at the two cards mistakenly left out of the Alpha set, Circle of Protection Black and Volcanic Island. Congratulations to Volcanic Island for being the best card in Beta by default. Arabian Nights is the first of Magic's expansion sets, released in December of '93 and taking place on the plane of Arabia, which takes inspiration from the Book of 1001 Nights. Arabian Nights doesn't offer much in the way of power, with Bazaar of Baghdad being one of the only standouts. However, our award of most powerful card goes to City of Brass. Its ability to provide mana of any color with hardly any downside in a 40-life format is nothing to scoff at. If you hadn't noticed, there's a slight dip in power level for this set compared to Alpha and Beta, just a little bit. Antiquities tells the story of the Brothers' War between Urza and Mishra, two of Magic's most famous characters who are of course completely absent from cards until 2006 and 2019 respectively. This set ushers in the Nasty Land Strip Mine along with Mishra's Workshop, which has to be the best workshop in all of Magic. Triskelion is a card that has stood the test of time, but the best card is a complete linchpin in the decks that want it, Ashnod's Altar. Sacrificing a creature to add 2 mana is just an insane rate, one that any creature deck or token deck is willing to pay. Add the fact that it goes infinite with a ham sandwich and you've got an amazing card. Legends is one of the most important sets for Commander because it is the set that debuted legendary creature and legendary land cards. This set was a huge step for Magic and would have been a huge resource for Commander players if those cards were any good. It did, however, bring about the Elder Dragons, the entire inspiration for the format. One of those Elder Dragons happens to be one of the biggest villains in the history of everything, Nicol Bolas. Land Tax, Concordant Crossroads, and Sylvan Library make fine honorable mentions from this set, but Mana Drain stands out as the unrivaled counterspell. Sure, it costs the same as regular counterspell, but this one gives you a huge mana advantage at the same time. Mana Drain is easily one of the best counterspells ever printed. The Dark continues the story of the Brothers' War and helps solidify the idea of tribes, offering a handful of new goblin cards and the weirdest creature types you've ever seen in your entire life, such as Summon Uncle Istvan. Felwar Stone makes a good mana rock, but its efficiency cannot match the sheer sorrow caused by our number 1 card, Blood Moon. This is easily the most iconic card from the set and even matches the set symbol. What a great way to ruin everyone's day with just 4 words. Alright, Fallen Empires just sucks. The only card remotely playable from this set is High Tide, which I'm sure was originally intended to cost blue, 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 blue. Every card in this set looks and reads about as well as Homerid, which should tell you a lot. Let's move on to a good set. Ice Age is actually the only expansion in Magic's history to share a name with the Ray Romano movie. It's also packed with a ton of powerful cards. Nature's Lore, the Allied Painland Cycle, Demonic Consultation, Yocklehops, Snow-Covered Basics, and Mystic Remora. But since EDH is a 40-life format, almost nothing can beat out Necropotence. Power on this card is off the charts, and it is on our short list of bannable cards. I recommend trying it out if you haven't yet. I also recommend watching the trailer for the Ice Age expansion on YouTube. You will not regret it. Homelands? Merchant Scroll should be embarrassed to be part of Homelands. I feel sorry for it. Grandmother Sengir had the right idea when she wanted to bury all cards from the Homeland expansion. We're done here. Homelands was so bad that alliances didn't even want to follow it up. It took 8 months to be released, the longest gap between sets in recorded history. In this story, Freyalise ends the Ice Age by casting her World Spell, and forces rally against Limdol and his army. This set has a lower power level overall, but has some gems like Arcane Denial, Feldigriff, and Phyrexian Devourer. It also has this uncommon called Force of Will, which helps you protect combos and counter spells for 0 mana. Definitely the star of the set. Mirage is set on the tropical continent of Jamura, and takes place in a pseudo-African setting. Before its banning, Flash might have been number 1, and Lion's Eye Diamond is no slouch, but this set has a 3-way tie for number 1, Enlightened Tutor, Mystical Tutor, and Worldly Tutor. They're all insane and so versatile, so pick your favorite. If you thought those other tutors were good, wait until you meet our number 1 Visions card, Vampiric Tutor. It manages to be better than all 3 of those cards, and is just one of the best tutors ever. Natural Order, another of the best tutors ever made, squeaks in at number 2, and let's not forget Uktabi Orangutan, the winner for most wholesome Magic the Gathering artwork. Portal is a set designed for newer players, but seems to have failed on every level, at least according to us. They took out half the card types and changed half the main vocabulary. For example, my Jungle Lion here has 2 offense, 1 defense, and can't intercept. Despite the set claiming to be simple, the 3 best cards all involve searching your library. Wood Elves is the GOAT among dorks that ramp you, but Personal Tutor and Sylvan Tutor tie for the strongest card, since they're just pretty good ways to search for your best card at any point in the game. This set marked the beginning of the Weatherlight Saga, a story that would continue from Weatherlight's release in June of 1997 until 2001. Weatherlight brings some EDH classics in the form of Aura of Silence and Buried Alive, but those relatively fair cards don't live up to the pure cheese of Doomsday. There's an extremely large number of Doomsday piles that win you the game, so much so that many EDH decks are built with this card as the central win condition. Tempest was a super powerful set, and I don't even have time for jokes because there's too many good cards to mention. Altar of Dementia, the Medallion Cycle, Goblin Bombardment, Humility, Intuition, Living Death, Lotus Petal, Reanimate, Scroll Rack, Time Warp, Wasteland. But the number 1 card is a card that can go into any deck and power out super dumb mega turns, Ancient Tune. For all those 5-color Sliver players, Sliver Queen is the best card in Stronghold. Alright, now skip 20 seconds ahead. Okay guys, now that they're gone, I can say the real good cards. Dream Halls, Grave Pact, and Hermit Druid. We gave the number 1 slot to Mox Diamond for being so dang good. Some decks even want to discard a land. Don't tell the Sliver players about this. Fun fact about Exodus, it was the first set to use color coding for the rares, and the first set to feature the collector number at the bottom. Plus, it gave us Beebles. Coat of Arms is a rock-solid tribal staple, and Mind Over Matter can go infinite quite easily, but far and away the best card from Exodus is Survival of the Fittest. It's a repeatable creature tutor that can assemble wins literally by itself, assuming you have 1 creature to start a chain with. You may notice a theme of tutors being the best card from sets when they print a crazy one. Portal Second Age was the first set I got to play with, but that doesn't make it any less poopy. It does show how great of a game Magic is, that even one of the worst sets can spark interest in the game. Temporal Manipulation is really the only card that's worthwhile from Portal Second Age, so it kinda wins by default. Time Warps are good though, and decks that want them will play as many good copies of the card as they can get. The Urza block is home to some of Magic's most broken cards, and I'm glad I wasn't playing Standard anywhere near that time. For CEDH players, Urza Saga offers Carpet of Flowers, Exploration, Gamble, Gilded Drake, Yawgmoth's Will, Phyrexian Tower, Time Spiral, and Turnabout. Slightly jankier but still strong cards include Windfall, Greater Good, and Sarah's Sanctum. Gaia's Cradle though, now that's a Magic card. It's not even better than Tolarian Academy, but that card is banned. But Gaia's Cradle completely warps every deck it's in, and if you play towards finding it, it ups your power level way more than most individual cards can. The number 1 card from Urza's Legacy is Frantic Search. It's winning over some fierce competition, including Goblin Welder, Grim Monolith, Karmic Guide, Memory Jar, and Palinchron. But this card is a Swiss Army knife. The fact that it essentially costs 0 mana, filters you, and works wonders in any combo or with lands that tap for multiple mana gives it the nudge to number 1. We already mentioned how little we like Portal sets, and this one is the least interesting because all the good cards are just slightly worse reprints of amazing cards. Rolling Earthquake, Ravages of War, and Loyal Retainers are the runners-up, with Imperial Seal being number 1. Turns out Vampiric Tutor is good enough to make number 1 twice. Not as many crazy cards for Commander in Urza's Destiny, but we do have some heavy hitters like Academy Rector, Pattern of Rebirth, Replenish, Urza's Incubator for tribal decks, and Yavimaya Hollow. This one was close to judge, but we have Metalworker as number 1. It just adds too much mana, assuming you have the artifacts, of course. Mercadian Masks is the first set that is not protected by the reserved list. Dust Bowl, Bribery, and High Market all make strong additions to most EDH decks. The top spot goes to Food Chain because it does ridiculous things with tokens and regular creatures alike. The set symbol for Nemesis is the Axe of Krovax, the main villain of the story, who is the first legend to get a second card after a change in their storyline. Only 2 cards of note for Commander really came out of Nemesis. The first one is Terrain Generator, which is a powerhouse in non-green controlling decks, and Skyshroud Claim takes the cake as number 1. It gets any forests, shockland, duels, you get the idea. Prophecy is home to the card with the highest cuteness to misery ratio, Spore Frog, and one of the most miserable cards to play against in all of Commander, Rhystic Study. Are you going to pay the 1? Both of these cards are actually pretty unfun, but of course, Rhystic Study is way stronger. Rhystic Study will greatly warp any game it's cast in, and if opponents sequence poorly, you might outright win because of it. In the storyline for Invasion, Dominaria is basically screwed due to the army of Phyrexians laying waste to the entire plane. Invasion was a super popular set, partially because it was focused on multicolor cards. Some of these include Aura Shards, Sterling Grove, and Captain Cisse. We also get 2 strong monocolor cards in Factor Fiction and Obliterate, but ironically, the best card from this set is colorless and it's Phyrexian Altar. It can at least make all the mana for your multicolored spells though. In Planeshift, the Coalition and Phyrexians are so focused on fighting each other that they forgot to make any good cards besides tutors. Eladamri's Call is great for finding the creature you need, but Diabolic Intent trades a creature in play for any card, so that's our number 1. When you factor in Synergy, this card has the potential to be even better than Demonic Tutor, so don't sleep on it for your Sacrifice, Graveyard, or Token decks. Apocalypse sticks with the multicolor theme of the previous 2 sets, but with a focus on the enemy colors. We are giving the number 1 slot to enemy Painlands for being so frickin' useful. Other shoutouts go to Mystic Snake, Vindicate, and begrudgingly Phyrexian Arena, even though we don't like it that much. We continue our theme of land cycles and tutors being good for Commander with this set, Odyssey. We have Filter Lands for fixing, Seize the Day for awesome Voltron beats, and Time Stretch for taking all the turns for yourself. Entomb is the winner from this set though. The fact that it takes the card from your deck and then puts it where you want it, the graveyard, is too good to pass up. Torment has some great mechanics like Flashback, Threshold, and Madness, but most importantly, it has those cute little tombstones on the cards. Wizards, please bring back the little tombstones. Since this set was focused on the color black, we got Tainted Lands, which are awesome dual lands, and very fittingly, the real black MVP, Cabal Coffers. This card is so good that it makes the whole mono-black archetype boring. Just tutor it up and win the game. Judgment was the set focused on white and green to offset Torment's black focus, so how fitting that the best card from this set is Mirari's Wake. It's not a powerhouse in EDH or anything, but it beats out other close contenders like Croson Verge, Anger, aka Angry Baby, and Worldgorger Dragon, which are good in more specific situations. Onslaught is a set focused mainly around tribal themes. Mana Echoes is from this set, along with the Cycling Lands, Weathered Wayfarer, and Insurrection. But as you probably know, Onslaught is home to 5 of the best lands of all time, the original ally fetch lands. Sure, it's boring to give the number 1 slot to a cycle of lands, but it's not even close in this case. Fetch lands essentially produce any color, and can even grab obscure lands with land types. They're seriously amazing and potentially too good even for competitive Magic. Legions was actually the first Magic set to consist of 100% creatures, but the only notable card from this set is Seaborn Muse. It flew mostly under the radar until Prophet of Krufix was banned, but even just half of that card is still very playable as it turns out. Scourge was marketed as the Dragon set, despite being almost completely devoid of dragons. Seriously, there's 4 dragons in this set and they're all rare. What the heck? The Decree cycle is notable from this set, all featuring cameos of Corona False God, but the number 1 card is Wirewood Symbiote. It's a complete and total house in elf decks. Not too many cards in Magic have costs and effects that are both upsides, and this is one of the better ones. Whew, that was a lot of sets. Let's cool down with a brief intermission.
Yeah, and we're heading into the modern era of Magic, which means we're getting a brand new border for cards.
Yeah, it started with 8th edition, which we're not covering because it was all reprint set, but it goes all the way forward, and that's how the modern format decided what was legal.
Yeah, and we're starting with Mirrodin, which is the first non-reprint set to be legal in Modern.
Introduced equipments. I always picture equipment being around forever because neither of us were playing in Mirrodin.
Yeah, we were not. So let's get right back into the best cards.
Wizards did a lot of experimenting in Mirrodin, and most of it resulted in some really good Magic cards. Among these are Artifact Lands, Chrome Mox, Gilded Lotus, Isochron Scepter, Lightning Greaves, Mindslaver, Oblivion Stone, Sculpting Steel, Solemn Simulacrum, and the Allied Talismans. We gotta give the number 1 position to one of the original win-by-itself cards in Commander, which is Tooth and Nail. The card can be used to assemble any number of 2-creature infinite combos, and it does it for just 9 mana. Tooth and Nail helps set the standards of EDH and is one of the reasons spending 9 mana on one spell is associated with winning the game. Darksteel brings some powerhouse artifact effects like Darksteel Forge and Mycosynth Lattice, but clearly the strongest card from this set is Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp is a card that has been seen as too powerful for the format for a very long time, and is easily one of the strongest things any deck could be doing. Enough said. Fifth Dawn. Get ready for more artifacts. Crucible of Worlds, Krark Clan Ironworks, Command Zone's pet card Vidalcan Orrery, and Commander's Quarter's pet card Wayfarer Bauble. Strangely enough, the best card in Fifth Dawn isn't an artifact. Eternal Witness was casually dropped in this set as an uncommon and is one of the best things any green deck can hope to play. Turns out the difference between Regrowth being a sorcery versus a creature is enormous, and as a result, Eternal Witness is one of the most played cards in the entire format. The Kamigawa block is pretty low power overall. Champions of Kamigawa does bring some high power staples with it. Kikijiki Mirror Breaker, Kakusho the Evening Star, and Azusa Lost But Seeking all see tons of play, but you already know what number 1 is. Sensei's Divining Top is one of the strongest ways to twiddle your thumbs ever printed. It just does a little too much for a 1-mana artifact and makes a great way to spend excess mana in Commander. It's even involved in a couple infinite combos. Betrayers of Kamigawa continues the weird story of the Kami versus everybody else, and there's that which was taken, and, well, remember when I said this black wasn't very strong? Yeah, well, the best card from this set is Hokori Dustdrinker, so maybe let's just move on. Saviors of Kamigawa draws the block's storyline to a close, where the Kami War is stopped and peace is restored. Saviors offers a little bit more than Betrayers, but we at the Nitpicking Nerds hate on the Kamigawa block for a reason. Sakashima the Imposter makes for a good second copy of your commander, and we also have Miko Koro, Center of the Sea, taking the number 1 spot, since it's a colorless group hug land, or just a way to draw cards in red and white if you're desperate. Ravnica's City of Guilds is one of the most iconic sets in all of Magic. It introduces 4 of the 10 guilds, each representing one of the 10 2-color pairs and giving them amazing unique identities that are referenced to this day. Ravnica gave us Shocklands, Life from the Loam, Court of Calling, and even Doubling Season, but we give the award for best card to 2 cards, Dimir Signet and Boros Signet. Non-green signets are a huge boon to almost every deck they can appear in, so we are paying them full respect. Guild Pact continues introducing guilds, but doesn't offer much beyond that. We get more Shocklands, which is great for mana bases everywhere, but our picks for best cards are still the non-green signets, Izzet, and Orzhov. Dissension wraps up the underwhelming Nephilim storyline and showcases the Azorius, Rakdos, and Simic guilds. While we love Shocklands and Rakdos and Azorius signets, Protean Hulk is the actual winner. This card is so strong, and we can't actually believe it's still legal, since when it dies, you can just win the game if your deck is built to take advantage of it. Honestly, this is one of the strongest cards in the entire format. Cold Snap was a set designed to complete the block of Ice Age and Alliances, and has a retro feel to it. They did a really good job with that because I always forget that this set came out after Ravnica block. Mishra's Bauble is a decent artifact, and Zur the Enchanter is beloved by many as a cheap way to find Necropotence every single time, but our pick for best card is Commandeer. It's pricey to exile 2 cards, but the spell is free when you do that, and can completely blow opponents out of the water. Or, maybe, steal a game-winning spell for yourself. Time Spiral is a crazy expansion featuring the weirdest mechanics of Magic's history, representing the crazy time stuff happening on Dominaria. Harmonic Sliver, Krosan Grip, Terramorphic Expanse, Vesuva, and Wheel of Fate are the best of the bunch, except for our number 1 pick, Safi Eric's daughter. I don't know what her deal is besides being Eric's daughter, but she's part of a dozen combo kills and can bring back plenty of creatures infinitely if you do it right. She's also a great utility creature that can just save your commander. The only downside to her is that she's weak to Lurgoyfs. Planar Chaos. Dominaria is basically screwed at this point. There's rifts spewing alternate timelines that overlap with the actual plane. In terms of commander cards, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth is a great fixer and combos well with Cabal Coffers, but Damnation gets the number 1 spot for being such a solid black board wipe. It's underwhelming in white, but color shifting makes a huge difference when commander decks are restricted by color identity. In Future Sight, a bunch of Planeswalkers are dying to close all those rifts I talked about, and Leshrac, a villain no one cares about, is back, but he gets completely dunked on by Nicol Bolas, and the rifts end up sealed. We get a ton of awesome commander cards. Listen to this list. Grove of the Burnwillows, Horizon Canopy, Aven Mind Sensor, Pact of Negation, Sliver Legion, Venser, Shaper Savant, and the top dog of the set, Coalition Relic. Such an amazing color fixer, and a 3-mana rock that can produce 2 mana the next turn or 1 right away. And as a bonus, you can even fiddle with the charge counters and have it produce even more mana than usual. Good job, Coalition Relic. Lorwyn is a wonderful land of peace and prosperity where the sun never sets and the only problems come from tribal rivalries and some super racist elves. Classic cantrip Ponder originated here, along with Cryptic Command, Mirror Entity, and Gaddock Teague. Garruk Wildspeaker, one of the original 5 planeswalkers ever, has our pick for number 1 in this set due to his huge synergy with untapping lands. As soon as your deck starts playing lands that tap for 2, 3, or more mana, Garruk becomes a high value play. Morningtide follows Lorwyn and continues the story following Reese, an elf who is ugly. Morningtide brings a lot of Magic's classics to the table, including Negate and Scapeshift, along with some fringe tribal cards like Shared Animosity and Thornbite Staff. Idyllic Tutor is a decent tutor, for a white card at least, but if you want powerful white cards, then you should check our number 1, Revelark. It's versatile, fits into a ton of combos, and the trigger basically can't be avoided. Definitely a combo and white weenie staple. Lorwyn is now Shadowmoor. The Great Aurora has completely warped the entire plane and everyone on it, causing everyone's personalities to flip-flop and the racism to transfer from the elves to the Kithkin. We get the allied filter lands, which are awesome untapped duels that also produce colorless mana, Devoted Druid, one of the better mana dorks in the game, Mana Reflection, a clunky but dangerous threat, and the actual best card in the set, Woodfall Primus. The Persist really pushes this card over the edge and allows for plenty of looping and comboing. At face value, it is a strong yet expensive creature with the built-in 2-for-1 attached. Time to wrap up the Lorwyn story with Eventide. This story gets a little weird and complicated since these sets have 4 books about them, but Una, Queen of the Fae, gets beat up by her memory clone Marilyn, and Lorwyn returns to a normal day-night cycle, and there won't be any more Aurora shifts in the future. However, the story is not clear which tribes are nice and which ones are racist now, so we don't know. Similar to Shadowmoor, we have 5 lands from a cycle, a 2-mana mana dork, and a janky green enchantment filling out the honorable mentions, with a persist creature taking the number 1 spot. Glenelendra Archmage. This is an amazing and annoying way to protect your board and combos from opposing nonsense. Also, quick PSA, this is not a legendary creature named Glenelendra. Glenelendra is a location. Shards of Alara is the set that coined names for the 3-color allied pairings, aka the Shards. In addition, this set was the first to introduce the new mythic rarity. The tap tri-lands for the 5 Shards are great for budget builds, Sharum the Hegemon makes a great artifact commander, and Tezzeret the Seeker makes a great artifact go-getter. But since this is a 40-life format, Ad Nauseam gets the number 1 spot. All you have to do is build your deck in a certain way, with low mana cost, and you have a 5-mana spell that draws you 15 plus cards. Seems like a good rate to me. In Conflux, Nicol Bolas is conspiring to unite all 5 Shards, and he is brought to a magic card as a planeswalker for the first time ever, and it's totally awesome. Exotic Orchard, Noble Hierarch, and the often overplayed Reliquary Tower are the honorable mentions from this small set, losing out to Path to Exile, which is not a card we normally play, but it is certainly a solid 1-for-1 removal spell that is universally more powerful than other options from Conflux. Welp, the Shards are merged and Alara is reborn, and Ajani beats Bolas and sends him packing, but Wizards doesn't want you to remember that. This is the first and only set containing 100% gold cards, making for a lot of wacky designs. Some standouts include Finest Hour, Lord of Extinction, Qasali Pridemage, and Sovereigns of Lost Alara, but our favorite is an underrated tutor by the name of Wargate. It lets you get any permanent from your deck, from non-basic lands to combo pieces to giant monsters. Magic 2010 basically changed everything about core sets, and was the first core set since beta to feature new cards as well as mythic rares and planeswalkers. It also had the first ever Buy-a-Box promo, Honor of the Pure. Magic 2010 brought us solid tribal cards like Goblin Chieftain and Elvish Archdruid, but for the number 1 spot we easily chose the allied buddy lands of Glacial Fortress, Drowned Catacomb, Dragonskull Summit, Rootbound Crag, and Sunpetal Grove. These are all basically free roll dual lands in Commander, and as an added bonus, they've been printed 10,000 times and are all pretty cheap. Zendikar is the adventure set, and has some of the best flavor and fastest limited environments Magic has ever seen. It also has a bunch of great commander cards: Day of Judgment, Felidar Sovereign, Rite of Replication, Bloodchief Ascension, Sorin Markov, Lotus Cobra, Emeria the Skyruin, Expedition Map, and Oracle of Moldiah. But like with Onslaught, it's still an easy choice for the best cards in this set, the 5 enemy fetch lands. There's a reason these things are always expensive, and that's because they make mana fixing trivial, especially in a 40-life format. Worldwake. It's like Zendikar, but the lands are alive now. Amulet of Vigor, Avenger of Zendikar, Bajuka Bog, Eye of Ugin, Everflowing Chalice, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Stoneforge Mystic, and Terastodon are all the good cards that didn't make number 1. Our top choice is a bread and butter card, Nature's Claim. This card is incredibly efficient and better than any other similar 1-3 mana naturalize effect in our opinion. It's a format staple and possesses a lot of subtle power for a 1 mana instant. Rise of the Eldrazi was just one of the coolest sets ever. The slight nods to the Eldrazi in Zendikar and Worldwake lead up to this set where the Titans are released and Zendikar is totally screwed, with no happy ending in sight. Training Grounds, Recurring Insight, and Evolving Wilds are decent enough commander cards, but most of this set's gems are based on the Eldrazi. All is Dust, Eldrazi Conscription, It That Betrays, Pawn of Ulamog, and Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, are all runners-up to Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, the best commander legal Titan. Sorry, Emrakul. Drawing 4 cards immediately on your Annihilator 4 12/12 monster means that no matter what happens, you end up on the positive side of the exchange. Kozilek is a fantastic threat at the top of your curve that helps you pull even farther ahead. Wizards upped their core set game with Magic 2011, which has a lot more commander staples than 2010. Captivating Vampire, supposed super staple Cultivate, Fauna Shaman, Grave Titan, Inferno Titan, Leyline of Anticipation, Preordain, and Sun Titan are all originally from M11. And our number 1, by weird technicality, is Serra Ascendant. This is just a 1-mana 6/6 flying lifelink beater in the early game and can decide outcomes of commander games before they even get going. It's weird that this card can't be errata and hasn't been banned. Scars of Mirrodin begins the awesome saga of the Mirrans versus the Phyrexians, which all starts because Karn went mudding on Phyrexia and tracked it all over Mirrodin's carpet. Contagion Engine, Koldath the Forge Master, Mir Battlesphere, Mox Opal, and Steel Hellkite do a great job representing artifacts in this set, but the number 1 isn't an artifact, it's Genesis Wave. If you meet the building requirement and have a deck with 80% permanence or more, then simply casting this spell with X more than 5 or 6 will usually give you enough critical mass to win the game, with just 1 card. Mirrodin Besieged was the awkward middle set with little to no major story points that was becoming common at this time frame, but actually had some really awesome cards in it. Blightsteel Colossus, Black Sun Zenith, Blue Sun Zenith, Green Sun Zenith, Sword of Feast and Famine, Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, and best of all, Consecrated Sphinx. This card is a very simple design. If your opponents don't kill it soon, you will completely bury them in card advantage and win the game, and they can't dig for answers after it resolves, or you get even more cards. Well, as it turns out, the Mirrodins lose pretty badly to the Phyrexians, who renamed the plane New Phyrexia. The Phyrexians don't pull punches either because their cards are strong. Phyrexian mana basically broke every other format, but for Commander we get Elesh Norn, Grand Cenobite, Gitaxian Probe, Jin Gitaxias, Core Augur, Phyrexian Metamorph, Praetor's Grasp, Shieldred Whispering One, Triumph for the Hordes, and Vorinclex Voice of Hunger. But number 1 is Birthing Pod. Phyrexian mana lets you cheat mana when casting and activating it. It tutors and helps you go mana positive, turning your deck into a dangerous toolbox. Birthing Pod is a Commander all-star. Commander 2011 marks a new era for the Commander format, one where Wizards of the Coast is now directly printing cards designed exclusively for Commander. As a result, we get some pretty powerful stuff. Animar, Soul of Elements, Gave, Guru of Spores, Kalia of the Vast, my personal favorite general, Carador Ghost Chieftain, Scavenging Ooze, Skullbriar the Walking Grave, and the Mimeoplasm. However, this set also brought us one of the best lands in the format, Command Tower. It is literally an auto-include in every single deck with 2 or more colors, and is thought of by many to have been a mistake for the format. Either way, it fixes your mana perfectly and helps tie almost any mana base together. The next core set, Magic 2012, focused on tribal synergies and caused a bit of controversy when players found out the cycle of Titans was getting reprinted and would continue to dominate limited and standard formats. Buried Ruin, Garruk Primal Hunter, Swiftfoot Boots, and Warstorm Surge stand out among the typically boring core set chaff, with Phantasmal Image taking the number 1 spot. As it turns out, the downside of this card hardly matters at all. Paying next to no mana for all the enters of the battlefield and dies abilities of the best creature in play is well worth it, and this thing is easily recurable at only 2 CMC. Whew! That was a lot more sets. We should take another break.
Yeah, and this time we're heading in to Innistrad, which is right around when I started playing Magic.
Don't worry, I started playing years before that. Joe is hashtag noob.
Yeah, and everyone loves Innistrad so much, so we're going to visit it a million times.
We're going to go there probably once every 4 years.
I love that. Let's just, you know what? Let's talk about Innistrad.
Innistrad. This is the gothic horror plane that many players fell in love with instantly. The vampires, werewolves, spirits, zombies, and classic horror callbacks are just too charming. Standouts from this set include Balefire Dragon, Enemy Buddy Lands, Grimgrin Corpseborn, Kessig Wolfrun, Laboratory Maniac, Parallel Lives, Rooftop Storm, and Snapcaster Mage. Blasphemous Act has our pick for the best card of Innistrad due to the pure efficiency of the spell. It can wipe the entire board for 3 mana or less, sometimes even 1 mana, and it has a quality most board wipes lack, which is the potential for a 2 to 3 spell turn after it resolves. Dark Ascension builds the tension set up in Innistrad and leaves everyone expecting an amazing conclusion to this block, and I'm sure no one was disappointed. Faithless Looting, Gravecrawler, and Sorin Lord of Innistrad are the heavy hitters, with Mikaeus the Unhallowed, the lord of the 2-card infinite combos, taking the crown for Dark Ascension. This card has so many words on it that you'll accidentally win half the time he's out, and purposely win the other half of the time. Despite being a complete and total disappointment from a limited perspective, Avacyn Restored brought us a lot of juicy commander staples and curve toppers, including Avacyn herself, Alchemist Refuge, Blood Artist, Cathar's Crusade, Cavern of Souls, Deadeye Navigator, Gisela Blade of Goldmite, and Terminus are other cards we considered near the top, but if you've ever played with or against a green deck in EDH, you know that Craterhoof Behemoth is our #1 card from Avacyn Restored. Its ability to end the game quickly with only a handful of creatures alongside it is literally unparalleled, and this card continues to increase in price, as it is one of the most common game enders in the entire format. Planechase introduced a whole new wacky format which I don't have time to dive into right now, but Planechase 2012 also gave us a few commander goodies. Baleful Strix and Sakashima's Student have found their way into many a commander deck. Maelstrom Wanderer gets our nod as the best card due to its impossible to stop value. This is a card you don't want to kill because its controller will just get more cascade value, but that you don't want to survive because it gives everything haste and can enable some insane turns. Magic 2013 features some cool story snippets revolving around several choice cards in the set, and I recommend you give them a read if you've got the spare time. Disciple of Bolas, Krenko Mob Boss, Spelltwine, and Trading Post fill the honorable mention slots from this set. Number 1 is the ultimate enabler, Omniscience. What can't you do after a resolved Omniscience? Seriously, now you can do whatever you want for free. If you have tutors or card draw, odds are the game ends before anyone else gets another turn. Ravnica block was so great that Wizards decided to go back, and they certainly delivered with Return to Ravnica. Chromatic Lantern, Deathrite Shaman, Rest in Peace, Rogue's Passage, Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme Verdict, and Vandal Blast are all very nice cards for the format. Cyclonic Rift, however, is a nasty card that can completely end games and create a gigantic resource disparity, allowing you to take full control of the game if you don't win. Rift is an easy #1 from RTR. Gatecrash continues to deliver with even more Commander good stuff. Aurelia the Warleader, Boral's Charm, Consuming Aberration, Cryptghast, Diluvian and Sepulchral Primordials, Enter the Infinite, Prime Speaker Zagana, Rapid Hybridization, and Thespian Stage. We chose Blind Obedience as our #1 card. It looks medium at first, but it actually does a great job at slowing down opponents, and Extort is a great way to bolster your life total in Commander. We love to pick on Dragon's Maze for being a dumpster fire of a set for limited and constructed formats at the time, but it does contain a few Commander cards as much as we wouldn't like to admit. Among these are Render Silent, Rurikthar the Unbowed, Sire of Insanity, and Varal's the Scar-Striped. Notion Thief is a clear standout for blue and black decks as it totally denies players the ability to dig for answers or fuel their game plans, and instead gives you access to more resources to protect your board state. Magic 2014 was a set marketed around Chandra, along with Duels of the Planeswalker. If you've ever played Duels of the Planeswalkers, you probably have a higher appreciation for Magic Arena. Elvish Mystic and Rise of the Dark Realms stand out among the usual core set chaff, and Archangel of Thune gets the top spot for being such an awesome life gain enabler. She is still to this day one of the more impactful payoffs that make you actually want to gain life in Commander. She's even a part of a few infinite combos. Theros is a fantastically flavorful set inspired by Greek mythos, which is actually based on the God of War 3 video game. When Elspeth's wife and daughter are murdered, she seeks bloody revenge against the one ultimately responsible. There's plenty to love from Theros, like Ashen Rider, Burnished Heart, Erebos God of the Dead, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Perforos God of the Forge, Allied Temples, Swansong, and Xenagos the Reveler. Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, however, is one of the best lands in the format for huge mana generation. It's such a fair card, but at the same time can be devastating when your deck does what it wants to do and reaches a critical mass of permanence. The opportunity cost of including Nykthos is low, and the payoff will be high. Wizards took a year off of making Precon Commander decks, but returned to the practice with Commander 2013. This time around, we get a bit more than just cool commanders to play with. Bane of Progress, Derevi Imperial Tactician, Darksteel Mutation, Prosh Skyrider of Care, Primal Vigor, aka Budget Doubling Season that isn't even budget anymore, and Tempt with Discovery. #1 goes to Toxic Deluge, one of the best board wipes in the format. Its mana cost is locked at 3, but its effect is completely under your control. You can use it and a chunk of your life to take out indestructible monsters and Eldrazi, or clear the way for your giant threat by taking out all the tiny tokens in your way. This card does it all. Back to Theros and Born of the Gods, where Elspeth's journey continues and we meet 5 more of the gods. Kiora's follower, Satyr Wayfinder, 3 more temples, and Big Bad Xenagos, God of Revels, are our honorable mentions, with the top card going to Karamitra, God of Harvests. All the gods having indestructible and often not being creatures make them nearly impossible to remove, and we love Karamitra's ability to pull you super far ahead by giving you plenty of resources that will stick around for the entire duration of most games, i.e. lands. The longer the game goes, the more value you will get. Journey into Nyx. Elspeth travels to Nyx and assassinates Xenagos, but is tragically murdered by Heliod because he's jealous and scared of her planeswalkeriness. Cards of note from this set include Ajani, Mentor of Heroes, Dictate of Erebos, Eidolon of Blossoms, Athreos, God of the Passage, Erois, God of Victory, Krufix, God of Horizons, and the last 2 temples. Mana Confluence earns the #1 spot from this set as a borderline free source of perfect fixing for your deck. A common theme of this project so far has been that mana fixing can be just as powerful as a good finisher. Conspiracy is a bizarre multiplayer draft format set on the plane of Fiora, where everyone is constantly trying to kill each other, and where a guy riding a sea serpent can make you into royalty. Brago King Eternal, Marchesa the Black Rose, Scourge of the Throne, Selvala Explorer Returned, and Treasonous Ogre are all strong EDH cards. But at #1, we have the John Cena of Magic, the greatest, deadest thief in the multiverse, Dak Faden. He comes down and steals an artifact permanently, meaning he can't be 1-for-1, and his +1 allows you to Faithless Looting if he isn't dealt with after. Dax slices and dices, and he's a pleasure to cast every time. For Magic 2015, Garruk is back, he's Veil Cursed, and he's running around chopping off Planeswalkers' heads. Of course, we need to mention his Planeswalker card, Garruk Apex Predator, along with Genesis Hydra, Life's Legacy, Perilous Vault, the Chain Veil, Waste Not, and Yisan the Wandering Bard. I guess green and black get all the good cards for this set. Our #1 Reclamation Sage debuted in M15, and this is a long-standing member of the Nitpicking Nerds Hall of Fame. He goes in so many decks and is such a strong, reusable removal effect, and we might argue that this was the death knell for Acidic Slime seeing play. At least for us. Khans of Tarkir gives names to the 3-color enemy wedges and was an extremely popular set, headlined by the reprinting of Onslaught fetches into Standard and Modern. Clever Impersonator, Hardened Scales, Jeskai Ascendancy, the 5-wedge Trilands, Sidisi Brood Tyrant, and Treasure Cruise round out the cards of note. Dig Through Time is the best though, beating out Treasure Cruise as a very undercosted card draw spell that can help you dig for the answer or combo piece you've been looking for. Commander 2014 gave us the first 5 Planeswalkers that could actually be your commander, and sparked discussion for a while if all Planeswalkers should be legal commanders. C14 has lots of cards we really love, like Hallowed Spearkeeper, the beloved Myriad Landscape, Song of the Dryads, and Commander Sphere. Despite the fact that we throw Myriad Landscape into almost all of our decks, Teferi Temporal Archmage is our #1 card. Whether he's your commander or not, he provides decent card advantage while immediately refunding you most or all of the mana spent to cast him, and if he survives, you are on a one-way street to either Ramp City or Combo Town. Back on Tarkir, during the events of Fate Reforged, Sarkhan Doctor Who's into the past, that's right, time travel, in order to bring us Humble Defector, Reality Shift, Shamanic Revelation, and Temur Sabertooth. But most of all, one of the best Planeswalkers in Commander, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Ugin comes down and eliminates all problems, and usually sticks around to provide you some extra value. He can slot almost anywhere, and will always be worth 8 mana. In Dragons of Tarkir, the butterfly effect from Sarkhan's time travel has caused the Khan's timeline to have never occurred, and now dragons rule over Tarkir. A couple of those dragons pack a real punch in Commander. I'm talking about Dragonlord Dramoka and Dragonlord Solongar. There's also Commune with Lava, Impact Tremors, Kolaghan's Command, Secure the Wastes, and Shaman of Forgotten Ways. Sitting atop the throne for this expansion is Sidisi Undead Vizier. She is a demonic tutor on legs that can be blinked, reanimated, or used to fuel big mana combos. You're really doing it if you can cheat her into play without paying the full 5 mana. Magic Origins begins a new era for Magic storytelling, and would be the last core set released for a while. Accompanying this set's release was the pinnacle for online Magic, with stunning graphics and amazing user interface designed to continuously update with each new set release. I'm of course talking about Magic Duels Origins! Aside from that nonsense, the Flipwalkers Jace, Liliana, and Nissa ended up being pretty cool. Other standouts include Alhammarret's Archive, Dark Petition, Hangerback Walker, Sword of the Animist, the Great Aurora, and Woodland Bellower. But if you know Magic Origins as well as you know the Nitpicking Nerds, then it's no surprise that we have Tragic Arrogance as the best card in the set. This is one of the best board wipes in the format in our opinion, since after you cast it, you're left with your best permanents against their worst ones. This card has a lot of play to it and always overperformed. We're going back to Zendikar. Unfortunately, when it comes to limited and standard, this set is in worse shape than the plane of Zendikar itself. Commander players get some decent cards though. Blighted Woodland, Bring to Light, the 5 allied Tango lands, From Beyond, Oblivion Sower, Omnath Locus of Rage, Void Winnower, and Zulaport Cutthroat. Number 1 is Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, aka Nulamog, or, if you're going to use the proper term coined by us, Pulamog. 10 mana for a built-in 2-for-1 stapled onto a 10/10 indestructible creature that disrupts your library when it attacks you seems pretty scary. If your deck wants to go big, it doesn't get much better than Pulamog. Commander 2015. Wizards loves trying to mess with the fundamental rules of Commander with every new release for some reason, and this time we get experience counters, which scale up your Commander's power as the game goes on. Mizzix's Mastery, Mystic Confluence, and Thought Vessel are all decent, with Fiery Confluence taking the cake. It's almost impossible not to get a 2 or 3-for-1 out of this card. It can sweep token hordes, spot remove problem artifacts, or dome opponents for some good old-fashioned damage. Oath of the Gatewatch is a crazy set. Kozilek comes out of the ground for some unknown reason, and Jace, Gideon, Chandra, and Nissa form a superhero team, which somehow, in possibly the most nonsensical plot point in all of Magic the Gathering, manages to kill Pulamog and Kozilek by yanking their full forms into the real world and burning them with fire? Are you kidding me? Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim, Kalidas, Trader of Get, Zendikar Resurgent, and Kozilek the Great Distortion fall into the honorable mentions, while Eldrazi Displacer beats out Kozilek for the number 1 spot. It's a really strong combo enabler and value engine as long as you have colorless mana in your deck. It even taps creatures, which is pure gravy. Shadows over Innistrad. Something is causing everyone on Innistrad to go crazy, and it could be anything. The Magic community certainly didn't know of any powerful beings capable of such madness at the time. Nitpicking aside, this set does a great job of maintaining that juicy Innistrad flavor. Power cards include Anguish Unmaking, Cryptolith Rites, Eerie Interlude, Tireless Tracker, and Traverse the Uvenwald. The Gitrog monster is a slam dunk number 1 due to its crazy efficiency and combo potential. No other frog in Magic can draw you this many cards for free. Trust me. Eldritch Moon. Surprise! It was Emrakul the whole time! Try to pretend like you didn't know that after drafting Shadows over Innistrad a single time. Bringing the Eldrazi to a new plane was a great idea, but maybe not directly after we had 2 sets full of them. Still, Meld was a pretty dope mechanic. Crypt Breaker, Eldritch Evolution, Selfless Spirit, and Splendid Reclamation are the best cards in the set, with of course Emrakul the Promised End easily beating out all other competition. She lets you steal someone's turn, and it doesn't matter that they get an extra one after, because any prospects they had of winning the game are now gone. Emrakul is currently hiding in the moon, so someday we'll get a 3rd version of her. Whew! That was even more sets! Now we need another break.
Yeah, we move to the 2-block system now, which means instead of having 3 blocks per set, we're going to have 2.
But then Wizards was like, no, wait. Actually, we thought of this after we already made all these sets. So we're going to do, secretly, a 4-set block and not tell anybody.
Yeah. Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, Shadows over Innistrad, and Eldritch Moon was just one big story, making it a 4-block set, essentially.
Yeah, they pick up the 5th member of the Gatewatch, Liliana, and then it's like, oh, here's the last Eldrazi. Let's just tie everything up real quick.
Yeah, they really just should have held off on Emrakul, and it would have been a big surprise when he showed up a year or 2 later. But regardless, let's continue.
Conspiracy 2, Take the Crown Boogaloo introduces one of the greatest mechanics of all time, the Monarchy. Even though they screwed up the grammar on the marquee token of the set, it's still great. 2 awesome examples of it can be found on Queen Marchesa and Regal Behemoth. Recruiter of the Guard, Selvala Heart of the Wilds, and Selvala Stampede are 3 other powerhouses from the set, but all these cards cannot surpass Expropriate. As much as I hate this stupid card, there's no denying how strong it is. For 9 mana, you basically win the game, but if anyone else gives you an extra turn, then you definitely win the game. Kaladesh is the much-needed sunny reprieve from the doom and gloom of the Eldrazi, unless you were a standard player, in which case your format became twice as miserable and prominently featured Eldrazi. The cream of the crop for Kaladesh are Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Cultivator's Caravan, Inventor's Fair, Key to the City, Metallurgic Summoning, Padim, Console of Innovation, and Panharmonicon, although we tend not to play that one. Aetherflux Reservoir is our pick for number 1, as it quickly became a go-to finisher for Storm decks, as well as part of one of Commander's most prominent combos along with Sensei's Dividing Top, and a card we will mention released in a later set. Commander 2016. To keep with the theme of messing with the core rules of Commander, Wizards gave us the Partner mechanic, which allows your deck to have 2 commanders as long as each one of them has Partner. Besides Deep Glow Skate, all the crazy cards in this set are legendary. Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, Brea, Ethereum Shaper, Crom, Ludovic's Opus, Timna the Weaver, Vile Smasher the Fierce, Yidris Maelstrom Wielder, and our number 1, Thrasios Triton Hero. This card plays so much better than it looks, allowing you to constantly hold up mana and stack his abilities up, since it feeds into itself, giving you selection followed by either ramp or card draw. Plus, the fact that it has Partner allows you to expand into 4 colors, which changed the entire landscape of competitive Commander. Aether Revolt. Oh no, it's Tezzeret, and he's stealing inventions. This was around the point that every set just ended in Bolas stealing a MacGuffin. Aether Revolt gives us Heroic Intervention, Lifecrafter's Bestiary, Renegade Rallier, Rishkar's Expertise, Scrap Trawler, Spire of Industry, and Yeheni Undying Partisan. Walking Ballista ends up as the best card in the set. It has obvious +1/+1 counter synergies, but is also an infinite mana outlet that will win you the game, which also has a versatile mana cost, making it a decent, if not exciting play at any point in the game, even sometimes for 0 mana. Versatility is the name of the game for Walking Ballista. Amonkhet is the desert Egyptian-inspired plane, controlled by Bolas, aka the God Pharaoh. For power cards, we have Anointed Procession, Approach of the Second Sun, Archfiend of Ifnir, Cycling Dual Lands, and Liliana Death's Majesty, which is actually a little bit better than it looks. Our top card is Byforce, a card that can do a pretty amazing Vandal Blast impression, or just be a 1 or 2 for 1. This card is pretty versatile and is often overlooked when players turn to removal. Its main downside is that it can only destroy artifacts, so it's usually only played in mono-red decks. Hour of Devastation. That metaphorical cake Nicol Bolas put in the oven is ready, so he comes back to Amonkhet to amass an army of undead warriors and make the Gatewatch look like a bunch of fools. Hour of Revelation, Hour of Promise, Swarm Intelligence, the Scarab God, and Torment of Hailfire are our picks for honorable mentions, and fittingly, we have Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh as number 1. Think of this as a 7 mana 6 for 1 that will empty opponents' hands if kept around. This card is definitely worth the investment. Commander 2017 introduced another rule-breaking ability in Eminence, a free static effect that can't be turned off just for having a certain commander in the command zone. Your Markov was the best of these 4 new tribal generals. Kess, Dissonant Mage, and Kindred Discovery are fantastic as well. However, Commander 2017 came out around the time when hating on Cyclonic Rift was cool, so Wizards gave us some tools to counteract it. Teferi's Protection went above and beyond and is a white staple that can get you out of almost any bad situation you can think of. The appeal for Ixalan was really based on the wacky themes of the set: vampire conquistadors, pirates, and dinosaurs. It was really hit or miss, and we were personally pretty bored by it. The thing it did bring to Commander was powerful flip lands: Dowsing Dagger, Growing Rites of Itlimoc, and Search for Azcanta, along with our number 1, Thematic Compass. This card is a Nitpicking nerd's staple in non-green decks, as it helps you find lands in the early game, ramp in the mid-game when it flips, and deter attackers in the late game. Rivals of Ixalan's story just ends with a bunch of useless characters running around and Nicol Bolas claiming another MacGuffin, this time the Immortal Sun. We get 2 more strong flip lands in Profane Procession and Journey to Eternity, along with Atali Primal Storm, Nezahal Primal Tide, and Tendershoot Dryad. Zakama Primal Calamity gets top spot as the biggest and baddest threat from Rivals, as it dominates any board state with its abilities and high stats. Plus, it has combo potential with its Enter the Battlefield ability if you can continually bounce it. For Dominaria, Richard Garfield was on the design team for the first time since Innistrad, and the set was absolutely fantastic, possibly one of the all-time greats for Magic. For quality EDH cards, the set has Blackblade Reforged, the fun but overrated Helm of the Host, Muldrotha the Gravetide, Teferi Hero of Dominaria, and Oath of said Teferi. Joyra Weatherlight Captain wins the Best Card Award due to her crazy high potential for card advantage and combos. She's only 4 mana, and if your deck is full of cheap artifacts, you'll churn through it at light speed. Battlebond was a light-hearted, 2-headed giant set with some totally wacky characters and generally miserable art quality. It gave us some pretty awesome commander cards in Arena Rector, the Ally Battlelands, Last One Standing, and Pier's Whim, but Spellseeker reigns supreme in Battlebond. They're kind of doing this cycle of 3-mana 1/1s that tutor for something involving the number 2, and this one lets you grab counterspells, cantrips, removal, or even other tutors. Global Series Jiang Yangu vs. Mu Yanling was the start of a long-running series, paying homage to various cultures around the world through simple duel decks. Our honorable mentions are slightly worse than usual, with Moon-Eating Dog, Nine-Tail White Fox, and Journey for the Elixir. Number 1 goes to Purple Crystal Crab for being the only card in the set to reliably get you your card back. Core Set 2019 marks the return of core sets after the drought, starting with Origins. It actually has some rock-solid commander cards, which is surprising for a core set. Arcades the Strategist, Elvish Rejuvenator, Goblin Trashmaster, Poison Tip Archer, Remorseful Cleric, Satyr Enchanter, and Stitcher Supplier all stand out as some awesome role players for their given archetypes. Number 1 is a card we give constant praise, Nexus of Fate. This is a powerful Time Walk effect that doubles as a win condition. If you can draw or mill your entire deck, you get infinite turns, and the best part is, this card is almost impossible to put into exile. If you see a Nexus of Fate, you need to kill that person quickly. For Commander 2018, Wizards took a break from breaking the rules and gave us some more awesome Planeswalker commanders. Amanatu's Augury, Nesting Dragon, and Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow, which actually has an ability that breaks commander attacks now that I think about it. Anyway, our number 1 card is Windgrace's Judgment. This is a pricey 3-for-1 that always hits your preferred targets. Being an instant definitely gives this card an edge over some other spot removal spells, and it helps make up for the high mana cost. In my headcanon, Dragon's Maze was so terrible that Wizards wanted to go back to Ravnica again and make it up to us, hence Guilds of Ravnica. We get Assassin's Trophy, Knight of Autumn, Midnight Reaper, Mission Briefing, Plague Crafter, and one of my personal favorite cards, Underrealm Lich, which is a pretty sweet roster of cards. Beast Whisperer steals number 1 and our hearts because he's everything we want in a draw engine. He's tutorable since he's a creature, you can trigger him multiple times in a turn, and he's not very expensive to cast. Love this guy! Game Night is a set of 5 intro decks designed for multiplayer games. There's only 5 unique cards in it, so let's get to them. Honorable mentions by default are Rot Hulk, Inspired Sphinx, Goblin Goliath, Militant Angel, with number 1 being Avatar of Growth. These cards are actually all kinda cool, but Avatar costs 3 mana and can ramp you like crazy if you're willing to give opponents some lands. The huge bonus comes from you either being able to stop them from searching, or by having so many basics that they can't possibly search for nearly as many as you. Ravnica Allegiance was the equally cool follow-up to Guilds of Ravnica that had us wondering what the final showdown between Bolas and the Gatewatch was going to be like. Awaken the Erstwhile, Guardian Project, Basilica Bellhaunt, Frilled Mystic, Growth Spiral, Prime Speaker Vanavar, and Rhythm of the Wild are the standouts of this expansion. We have Smothering Tithe at number 1 by a wide margin, as it is a complete staple of the format at this point and generates a ton of extra mana. Even if this enchantment is answered soon, you can still profit multiple treasures. Alright, this is the big one. Bolas launches an all-out assault on Ravnica and traps thousands of planeswalkers on the plane with the Immortal Sun so he can harvest their sparks and life force using his army of Eternals to get back his pre-mending powers. There's also a side plot where Arlen Cord develops an anti-aging cream that makes her look 20 years younger. There's a ton of great EDH cards from this set to list. Ashiok Dreamrender, Command the Dreadhorde, Cruel Celebrant, Dovin's Veto, Ya Boy Fibblethip the Lost, Finale of Devastation, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, Liliana Dreadhorde General, Narset Parter of Veils, Teferi Time Reveler, and Time Wipe. Bolas' Citadel earns the top spot through its card drawing and mana cheating abilities, as well as its potent combo with Sensei's Divining Top and Aetherflux Reservoir, which we mentioned before. If you see the Citadel, you might not get another turn in the game. Modern Horizons was a set designed to shake up the modern format, but was potentially the most problematic set released in Magic's entire history, and led to multiple bans in multiple formats. For Commander, we have Collector Oof, the enemy Canopy Lands, Force of Negation, Prismatic Vista, Ranger Captain of Eos, the enemy Talismans, and Yawgmoth Thran Physician, all as great Commander cards. But the best in our opinion is Urza, Lord High Artificer. You may have heard of him. He comes down with a big token and enables his own payoff. Yawgmoth beat Urza in our Ranking Every Commander project, but Urza is stronger overall. I guess Magic 2014 and Kaladesh wasn't quite enough because Core Set 2020 also puts its main focus on Chandra, but this time you get to see her as a kid and also as a newly sparked Planeswalker, Chandra Awakened Inferno. There are also non-Chandra cards from this set, namely Corpse Knight, Kaikar Wind's Fury, and Agent of Treachery. We were going to give Agent of Treachery the best card in the set, but my love for Field of the Dead in Commander brings it to number 1. I actually do think the card is better, but a lot of the value from Field comes from deck building, as it becomes more or less a free roll that just gives you zombies whenever you play it, if you build your mana base to accommodate it. I definitely recommend giving Field of the Dead a try if you haven't yet. It's subtly awesome. We're taking a step back from breaking the format again, and instead Commander 2019 focuses on Morph, Flashback, Madness, and Populate, 4 beloved mechanics with little support. We get 2 Commander All-Stars in Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, and Savin's Reclamation, along with number 1 choice Dockside Extortionist. This card is a weird design because it is literally just an amazing deal all the time and seems to be designed to be a chase rare for red decks. Not a fan of these designs, but it's crazy powerful nonetheless. We're counting the Throne of Eldraine set alongside the Commander release, so we have a lot of goodies to get to from this super flavorful and powerful fairy tale inspired set. We get a few obviously pushed cards in Chulane, Teller of Tales, Corvold, Fey Cursed King, and Oko, Thief of Crowns, along with more reasonable and interesting cards like Emry, Lurker of the Loch, Fabled Passage, Mystic Sanctuary, and Sir Conrad the Grim. Arcane Signet isn't flashy, but it basically goes in every non-green Commander deck, so it's a horribly problematic design, but like with Dockside Extortionist, we are still playing it. Game Night 2019 is the long-awaited sequel to Game Night, bringing us 5 new cards for Commander. Calculating Lich, Fiendish Duo, Sphinx of Enlightenment, and Highcliff Felidar are the honorable mentions, and the green card wins again. Number 1 is Earthshaker Giant, which comes with a free overrun attached. End-Race Forerunners is a great budget card, and we're thinking that this card is even better than that, for only about $4. Theros Beyond Death. We get to go back to Theros, where Wizards mostly opts out of telling the sought-after redemption story of Elspeth's rise from the underworld, where she basically rallies all the dead people on Theros to will Heliod out of his godhood and trap him in the underworld until he ceases to exist. I would have loved to hear that story. From this set, we get Heliod's Intervention, Nyx Lotus, Thassa Deep Dwelling, Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, and Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Best card goes to Thassa's Oracle for basically changing how a lot of decks function in competitive and casual. It's a really cheap and efficient win condition and blink target, and incentivizes you to cheat your deck into exile. This card might be one of the better win conditions in the whole format. Ikoria is a plane full of big scary monsters that are constantly mutating to be bigger and scarier, and it features Godzilla crossover cards too, which is a perfect fit. Check out these awesome cards. Eerie Ultimatum, Fiend Artisan, Kinnan Bonder's Prodigy, okay that one's lame, Mythos of Snapdax, Nethroi Apex of Death, the 5 Wedge Triumphs, Ruinous Ultimatum, and Whirlwind of Thought. We feel it's important to specifically mention the runner-up card, Luminous Broodmoth, but number 1 has got to be Mothra, Supersonic Queen. It gives your creatures a second life, they come back better than before, and if you can remove flying counters from them, now you've got a super easy infinite combo on your hands. This card is the epitome of awesome. Commander 2020 was focused on the mechanics of Ikoria and gave us 5 new commander decks with a lot of powerful stuff in them. Dismantling Wave, Manascape Refractor, Ravenous Gigantotherium, Verge Rangers, Cryptic Trilobite, Slippery Bogbinder, Daring Fiend Bonder, and Xyrus the Writhing Storm. The real standouts from this set are the cycle of 5 spells that cost 0 mana if you control your commander. Flawless Maneuver, Deadly Rollick, Deflecting Swat, Obscuring Haze, and the clear choice for number 1 card in the set, Fierce Guardianship. All these spells gain a huge upside from being free interaction, but the non-creature counterspell version is definitely the best, since you get to protect your board state basically no matter what. Core Set 2021 follows Teferi closely this time, showcasing new versions of his old allies and enemies. We get a solid chunk of great EDH cards from this set as Wizards continues to appeal to commander players through standard sets, Angelic Ascension, Liliana's Standard Bearer, Mangara the Diplomat, Vito, Pizza Man, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, Llanowar Visionary, and Village Rites. Number 1 with a bullet is Teferi, Master of Time. His ultimate is game-winning, and he requires little protection before he ultimates due to him activating 4 times a turn cycle. He even helps you loot a ton of cards to find interaction. This card is frustratingly good. Jumpstart is a product designed for beginners and priced for royalty. However, it is eventually going to be printed into the dirt. This set contains a ton of unique effects, most of them aimed at Commander, including Witch of the Moors, the 5 Thriving Lands, Emiel the Blessed, and Tiny Bones, Trinket Thief. Allosaurus Shepherd is a pretty awesome magic card deserving of our number 1 spot. It stops all your green spells from being countered and can even serve as an overrun effect later in the game to KO a player. This dude is not messing around. Zendikar Rising, the newest standard set, bringing us back to Zendikar for the 3rd and hopefully final time. This set is bonkers for Commander, so let's just dive right in. Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, the 6 Pathway Lands, Cleansing Wildfire, Coveted Prize, Confounding Conundrum, and Felidar Retreat. And that isn't mentioning the modal dual-face lands, which you should not be sleeping on. For those, we have Balagad Recovery, Glasspool Mimic, Hagra Mauling, Kazul's Fury, Malika Rebirth, and Sajiri Shelter, which are all tap lands on the other side. Speaking of dual-face lands, the Mythic Cycle, where you pay 3 life to have them enter untapped, blows the rest of the set out of the water. We have Amiria's Call, Seagate Restoration, Shatter Skull Smashing, Turn Timber Symbiosis, and Agadeem's Awakening, which edges the rest of them out for the number 1 slot for being the most effective spell. We made a whole video about this, but these Mythic lands should be included in most 1 or 2 color decks from now on. We made a whole video about this, but these Mythic lands should be included in almost every 1 or 2 color deck from now until the end of history. We made it to the final release in our video, the widely hated Secret Lair, The Walking Dead. We've already talked about the controversy surrounding this release, so we're just here to examine the cards. The honorable mentions by default are Lucille, Michonne, Ruthless Survivor, Rick, Steadfast Leader, Negan, the Cold-Blooded, and Glenn, the Voice of Calm. We have Daryl, Hunter of Walkers as the strongest card, and also the funniest name compared to other Magic characters. You do need him to survive until your next upkeep to get the 3 walkers, but with how much card advantage he provides, you can dedicate a few slots to protecting him. The best thing he allows for is Pyroclasm effects, which will just draw you 3 cards and let you kill all small creatures in play, and even give you the opportunity of using Daryl to pick off a bigger creature afterwards. That was all the sets.
Every single one. We now know the best commander card from each set.
Oh yeah, but, you know, it wasn't just us that made this video, Joe.
Yes. Special thanks to all of our patrons, because without you guys, and you're literally sitting in chat with me in my Discord day in and day out while I edited this huge project, I would have gone crazy, because like there was so much editing to do, and if I wasn't laughing and making jokes all the time, I might have gone crazy.
Yeah, so much work, probably more than 100 hours. I don't know. If you combine our work, it's just insane. Like, there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of words read and cards edited. But anyway, we love you guys, and you can support us all the usual ways. We got merch in the description, TCG Player affiliate link in the description. You can go check out our Discord, which is free for everybody. And then if you're a patron, you get a little extra bonuses.
Yep. And again, just thank you guys for watching this video. It was one of our favorite videos to make so far, because this was a large project, and we haven't done anything like this, and we really hope that the response is positive.
Easily our longest video, and just as another extra bonus for whoever of you who are still here, who stayed the whole time, got a little special message from someone you might like coming up in the end card.
Ooh, peace out, Tribe Scout.